Now, Arthur, why aren't more companies devoting the time needed to train their employees properly? As an example, and I want you to chime in on this. One guy I know, he trains people to be on the phone all the time. Their whole job, their core job is to call people. But most people are trained for about 30 minutes and then they're on the phone. So it's like, well, this is how you do it, get on the phone, bam. Why? I don't think the guy wants to ruin people's lives or upset customers, but why are more people not taking the time needed? Why is somebody taking 30 minutes to train somebody instead of maybe 15 hours or 10 hours or 5 hours or the amount of time needed? Why is that?
Well, I think that it's just not a focus for them. I mean, it's, but then when you look at them, when you look at the level of quality, you're not going to see the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at companies like Disney, one of the things that make Disney so phenomenal is their attention to detail.
Yeah.
You know, it's like taking a football and running, you know, all the way across the field versus running to the 90, you know, all the way to the 10-yard line and stopping. And I think a lot of companies do that when they get to train. It's like, okay, we got momentum going, they can handle it from here. No, they can't handle it from here. Walk them through the last stages so that you can make sure you have those details.
And I think that Disney is like that gold standard. I also think Chick-fil-A is that gold standard. Mm-hmm. And I look to them as groups that I aspire to be like. That we can be as good as they are someday. I mean, these are companies that do it the right way. So if next time you go to Disney World, look around, kind of take note of the magic and figure out, I wonder who trained these people, and I wonder what kind of standards these people are being held accountable to. Now, Arthur, Peter Drucker, he's one of the top management experts of all time, and he says, what's measured improves. So Arthur, in terms of training your team, what types of things do you do on an ongoing basis to make sure that your entire team is trained properly? I mean, after they've gone through the initial training, and you're like, well, this is how the milkshake thing works, this is how the chicken stuff works, this is how the fryer works. What do you do to maintain, to make sure, and to measure, to make sure they're properly trained?
Well, we have different systems built in place to inspect it. One of them breaks down the entire restaurant into small 20-minute increments, so that every day my management is going over a different component of it. It may be a little bit on customer service, maybe some on quality, and maybe some on drive-through exterior, whatever it may be, so that they can make sure those systems are being followed. And part of the tools that we actually have, and Chick-fil-A created this, is that if they fail, we can literally walk over to that team member and say, okay, here's what it's supposed to look like. Here's what it looks like. Here's the training video, and you can hit it on the iPad, and
sick.
It'll show the training video right there, so that we can say, hey, why don't you take 5 minutes and go step over there and take a look at how that looks, and then come back over here and let's do it again together.
That's beautiful.
And so it is just a continuous process of how do we keep our focus on quality.
If you're watching this and you're saying, well, I don't have the Chick-fil-A iPad training system. Another example, I know a wedding coordinator who's phenomenal. And what she does is whenever she finishes doing a tablescape, she calls it, she takes a photo on her phone and she saves it. So if you were to come work for her, she would say, well, this is how you set up the table. Make it look like this. And then it's a visual example. So we can all do it, whether you just have a smartphone and you have paper, and you just have to kind of make an example sheet like that, mm-hmm. or you have something as elaborate as the iPad training system that Chick-fil-A has. We can all do that.
Now, with your phones as well, nowadays you can do a video. Like if you were wanting a certain way, you could demonstrate that. You could take your phone and you could record it, and you can even set up a YouTube account just for your team if you wanted to, and say, here's our training program. Because maybe you can't afford, you have 4 employees, you can't afford this elaborate, cameras and stuff like that to do all your filming, but you can say, you know what, here's how I want it done, and you demonstrate it, have someone record it, put it on YouTube.
Not everybody can have gold chandeliers in their restaurants like you do.
That's right.
Solid gold chandeliers. Okay, so now I want to read this quote to you here. This is from Inc. magazine. This is an article that was written there, and it says, 3 out of 4 employees report that their boss is the worst and most stressful part of their job. They
interviewed my employees?
What are they doing? How do they get their information? No, but one of the things I found when I meet small business owners all over the country, like the other day I met a guy at an event who was unbelievably inspirational. And he told me about how his company was growing, and he just started out and it's growing. And I could tell that he's going to do well because you would want to work for him. Mm-hmm. You look at the guy and you're like, I would like to work for this guy. He seems like a kind, decent person. I met a lady at a conference there, at the same conference. Same thing. I said, man, this lady's sharp. I bet you that she's going to be successful. Well, I talked to her, found out sure enough she is successful. And you just pick up on it real quick. Then I met a guy who seriously looked like he'd been on a diplomatic mission to hell and back. And he had gone there, he had come back, and he just looked awful. He hadn't, he looked like he hadn't gone for the beard thing, but he also hadn't shaved. He was just kind of, shaved neutral. He looked like he hadn't slept in a few weeks. His shirt looked like it was beat up. He just looked like he didn't care. And he was talking about, man, just hard to motivate my staff. And I was thinking, I wouldn't even want to talk to you. Like, you're scary, So I just want to know from your perspective, how do you make sure that you hold your staff accountable to performing at that high level without becoming the boss that everybody hates? Because I think some people view it like, well, I either have to be the boss everyone likes and be super nice and, or I have to be the boss that but if I do that, I might get run over. Yeah. Or I've got to be the tyrant boss, the Darth Vader boss with no feelings, no caring, and but people will get stuff done. How do you do the balance there? How do you find that?
Well, I think that a lot of businesses, the employees are looking for someone to look up to. Okay. And so if you're performing at that level where they're looking up to you, you're going to be the boss that you're talking about, the good boss, not the bad boss. It's generally the bosses that go in there and they don't care and they're saying, do what I say, not what I do. And I see that a lot, and I've met people before like that. I kind of look and go, you're really kind of a jerk, and no wonder people don't follow you. Of course, you can't say that.